Hey guys, it's me. Welcome back to my channel, and in this video I'm going to be doing my mid-year book tag. So I'm going to be going over a list of prompts so I can give you guys a bit of information about how my year of reading has been so far. And I'm just going to be following the prompts that are commonly used as part of the mid-year freakout tag on YouTube. And just quickly to talk about my reading goals, I have a goal to read 72 books this year, which translates to 6 books a month, and so far I have been able to stick with that goal and I'm super proud of that in myself. Let's get started with the prompts. So the first prompt is the best book that I read this year, and the first book I'm going to talk about is Secret History by Donna. This is my physical edition, and I'm so happy that I have an actual physical edition because I feel like this is a book that I'm gonna end up rereading and annotating in depth. I seriously want to go back and go through this again because there's so much information and things that happened that I'm not like at my smartest to understand right now. I feel like if I come back to this once I've learned more and become a more intelligent person, I'll just have so much more capability to appreciate this book. And another book that I want to count as the best book that I've read so far is East of Eden by Steinbeck. I actually have a reading vlog that I put out reading this book, so if you want to see all of my unfiltered thoughts on this book, go check that out. To talk about the book, actually, it is amazing. I once again am so happy that I have a physical copy so I can grow with this book through time, because I know that I 100% will. Steinbeck is such an amazing writer, and when I started reading this book, I immediately felt like this was different from a lot of the other things that I have read. And the same thing can be said about The Secret History. I just enjoy really good writing, that's all. The next prompt we have is Best Book Boyfriend. I am not someone who usually reads romance, so I feel like I'm not the most qualified to answer this question, but there is one guy who stood out for me, and that is Wendell Bambleby in Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Faeries. I really liked Wendell. I think that, you know, like a lot of people say that he's how coded, and I can totally see that. I just love how he stepped up. I mean, we kind of could see it coming, but we really also couldn't. And then when he stepped up, he was like 100%, and I was so here for it. I just loved how he acted. Yeah, he was a little annoying, but he was also like very committed, very how-coded. I have to give it to Wendell. He's definitely the best. The next prompt is my most anticipated release of the year. I'm gonna have to say Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. I've actually only read one other R.F. Kuang book, and that is Babel. I absolutely love that book. It is definitely a book that has changed the way that I view the world and the way that I interact with the world, which is constantly something that I'm looking for in the books that I read. I just love how R.F. Kuang is not apologetic about her politics, about academia, and the fact that she's educated and she wants to share that with us through her novels, which I find to be incredibly amazing. As someone who is constantly hankering to gain more forms of education and become a more intelligent person, I enjoy R.F. Kuang's writing because you can tell that she lives beyond just the genres or the confines which usually get placed on authors of certain genres, which I really appreciate. And I've heard that Katabasis is a dark academia story following students that have gone into hell to save the soul of their professors in order to better themselves. Honestly, I think it's an interesting premise. I know that it's going to be extremely thought-provoking as her other book was, and I'm also just excited to delve more into that dark academia vibe. I feel like she does it so well. Katabasis is definitely a book that I am very excited to read. The next prompt that I'm going to be talking about is the most anticipated release for later in the year, and the book that I chose for this is Strength of the Few by James Islington. I actually recently read The Will of the Many, and if you want to see my unfiltered reactions to that, I have a reading vlog, so go check that out. And I completely loved that book. It was amazing. It was just such a journey. It is a very, very long book, so you go in depth and in detail, and it genuinely spans 1 year, but it feels like so much happens. It's action-packed, it's quick-paced, it's a good read, and if you don't know the synopsis, it basically follows a young man named Fizz who is living in a society that is controlled by Will, and due to various circumstances, we get to watch Fizz have to grapple with and face challenges and overcome obstacles in order to ultimately not only understand more about his world, because even though he's living there, it's not that clear to everyone the motivations of the people on top, but also to honor his history and maybe bring about good change within that world. And the first book ended on a cliffhanger of sorts. It was kind of very insane, and everyone has been theorizing on Reddit and nobody knows what's going on. So this next book is incredibly anticipated. I want to get some answers quite literally. So that's another book that I am super excited for, and a series that I am in the middle of, and I hopefully will be continuing with that later on this year when it comes out. I think it's in November. So the next prompt is biggest surprise, and the book that I chose for that is All's Well by Mona Awad. This book surprised me in so many ways because I really didn't know what to think when I went into it. I had heard of Mona Awad because of her infamous novel Bunny, and I'd heard so many conflicting opinions on that book. I wanted to read Bunny, but I also wanted to experience Mona Awad's writing in something a little less famous. I wouldn't get swept up in the social media conversations, so I can just really experience her as an author outside of her most popular novel. So I ended up reading All's Well. I genuinely did not know what to expect when I went into this book, but it surprised me in the best way possible, and I absolutely love this book. This book has so many amazing elements, and I was absolutely here for it the entire time. It's definitely one of my favorites this year. It told me that, maybe if you come across an author who is more so infamous, it might be better to just go for their lesser known novel. I still haven't read Bunny yet, so that is something that I definitely need to get to, and something that I really, really want to do even more now, knowing that I like All's Well as much as I do. So the next prompt that I'm going to be talking about is one book that I would like to read for the remaining seasons in the year. And I am in South Africa and it's currently winter, so we're going to start with winter. And a book that I would love to read in winter is Stoner by John Williams. This book is sort of popular. I've seen so many people talking about it, and it just seems like something that not only is really winter appropriate, but also incredibly up my alley. So far, I've heard that it is about a man that you follow throughout his life without anything grand or amazing happening to him, but you still get this deep commentary on him and his life and his world, but in a very quiet and contemplative and intimate way. That's just something that not only screams winter, but it's something that I 100% want to read, and I'm super excited to read, following themes of people who may not live the most grandiose lives. That interests me. And in spring, the book that I would like to read is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. So I know this is like a fantasy period piece novel, and I actually read Wilde's Encyclopedia Faeries, and there was like a little snippet of Half a Soul, the back of the book, and it just seemed very exciting. I love the idea of like fantasy but existing in the period fantasy, but written during the Regency period. So we get to have like all of the social norms and rules and things like that, but kind of mixed in with that childlike, youthful, fun fantasy element. And those first few pages that I read were super intriguing. I'm still like, I wonder what happened to her. I want to know if she like gets it together, And I feel like the main character, when we met her in that little snippet, she was like a young girl, and I want to see how she grows up and how she deals with her dilemma. And it seems like such a spring book because there's something about the Regency period specifically. It just makes me think of like Bridgerton and blooming flowers and things like that. I really do love and associate the Regency period with spring. In summer, the book that I would like to read is Perfume by Süskind. This novel, as much as I know, is about a person who derives more meaning into senses. So like sense existing in a third dimensional space where he can get more from his sense of smell, emotional things, and more than just the normal person's sense of smell. And that to me is a concept and on its own is amazingly beautiful. It seems like just a fun read that you could knock out while hanging out outside. It seems like it would be such a fun read to get to while just spending a nice summer's day outside, and that is why I'm excited to read it. The next prompt is Biggest Disappointment, and I'm gonna have to give it to I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hoffman. I'm so sorry. I heard so many great things about this book online. Everybody's talking about how this is their favorite book, that it is so amazing, so deep, so great. And I think I got my hopes up a little too high. And the title of the book as well. I mean, like the title, it kind of leads you in one way, but the book itself is about something incredibly different. I completely understand and respect that this is a modern classic, but I just felt like even though the premise was amazing of the bunkers and the unknown land, as well as her being able to count and everything like that, and I absolutely loved her character, and there were so many moments where I felt like I could relate to her, feeling that sort of like discomfort and unease with your place in the world. Even with all of that, I still felt like it was so bleak. I felt like it got to a point where the same thing kept on happening over and over again, and I was just hoping for something, for anything to happen. I don't mind books where like you're left with your own thoughts to put two and two together, but I just felt like this book was not only just not explained in so many ways, it felt very anticlimactic. So I did still enjoy it. There were so many aspects that I enjoyed about this book, but I was incredibly disappointed by this one. The next prompt is new favorite author, and it is Elena Ferrante. I read her book Days of Abandonment earlier in the year, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the emotion, the story. I loved her writing. I loved how relatable the book was. It felt like she opened up my brain and put it on a piece of paper, and I was just like, I healed so much emotionally from that book. It's one of my favorites. I absolutely love it. And I also recently read My Brilliant Friend, and this book was amazing. I genuinely didn't think that her work could get better, but I 100% will say that her writing in this book it has grown more. This book just touched me in a way that I can't even explain. I didn't expect it, and I didn't really know what it was going to be about, but emotionally, like, this book also reached me, and I feel like it's something that I'm gonna have to read again, but like with my therapist, because it was just so emotionally great for me. That's just how I felt. The thing about her is she's so able to convey emotions in such an honest and unpretentious way, and whatever she says, it just gets straight to me. Sometimes with other authors, when they're trying to convey emotions and to build up feelings within us as readers, it doesn't always register, but with Elena, it's amazing. So I 100% will be reading the rest of the Neapolitan Quartet as soon as I can. The next prompt is newest favorite character. For this, I chose Mrs. De Winter in Rebecca. I chose Mrs. De Winter because I related to her the most. I know it's kind of like the easiest way out, that your favorite character is the person that you related to the most, but I just felt very much that I could see a lot of myself in her and in her inner monologue. That just, it didn't fix my problems, it didn't change me as a person, but it moved me, and it felt incredibly validating to read about a person who has similar thought patterns as you and similar behaviors, and they might not be the best or the most reflective of reality or truth, but I still enjoy reading about someone who has similar thoughts to me. In the afterword of the novel, it was revealed that Du Maurier kind of based Mrs. De Winter's character on her own temperament and her own discomfort with being the lady of the house and certain responsibilities that came with that, and how they were not agreeable to her temperament. Genuinely, I truly could have like a whole discussion about her and her anxiety and the way that she shapes the world through her anxiety. She's a great character. The next prompt is a book that made me cry, and I chose A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. And this book is incredibly infamous for its emotional burden that it places on people. It is a lot, but I genuinely enjoyed this book, and I can 100% say that this book changed my life. It just affected me in so many ways, and I 100% think about this book a lot. And when I think about the book, I mostly think about the moments that were happy, and because those were the moments that touched me the most. But if you haven't heard about this book, we basically follow 4 friends in New York City, and it is not exactly multi-generational, but we follow them for pretty much multiple decades of their lives. It surrounds a singular character, Jude St. Francis, and he is someone who has lived a very difficult life. That's all I'm gonna say. I just know that even though this book had a lot of pain and suffering, and her intention was to have it sort of fade to black towards the end, even though all of that happened, I still think about the moments that were filled with love and hope and shock, but positive surprise. Those are the moments that stick with me in this book. The next prompt is a book that made me happy, and I chose Tomorrow, Tomorrow, Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This book is kind of like the happier version of A Little Life, but also it's completely different from A Little Life, and it stands on its own in many, many ways. This book follows 2 childhood acquaintances, Sam and Sadie, as they endeavor to create a video game, and it is set in the 80s, so it is 100% all the fun and cozy 80s vibes that you would imagine. This book obviously doesn't have a 100% happy storyline, but I really enjoyed the moments when they were working together to come up with their game at the beginning of their company, things like that, and moments like that. As I was reading it, I felt so happy and cozy and warm, and that's all that I really remember about this book, is how cozy and just nice this book was when I was reading it. So when I think about this book, that's what I remember, and this definitely stands out to me as a book that made me smile and made me slow down and appreciate things. The next prompt is the most beautiful book that you have read, and I chose The Will of the Many by James Islington. I spoke about The Strength of the Few earlier, but this book is the first book, The Will of the Many, and when I found out that I was going to be reading this book, I made sure that I could get this beautiful hardback edition with this amazing cover. It has these amazing columns on it. The book is set in a society that is inspired by ancient Rome, so columns are very, very, very fitting for the novel, and I just feel like it looks amazing. Like when you see it from afar, it not only because of the size, it's imposing, but because of the actual design of the novel, it just kind of feels ancient but with a modern twist, and I love this book cover. It's super, super pretty. The next prompt is books that I have to read this year, and in the beginning of the year I actually made a 25 for 2025, just listing 25 books that I would love to read this year. I have them here. I have read a few of them, but there are a majority that I still do have to read. The ones that I still have to read are Inferior, This Is Me Letting You Go, Blue Sisters, Starling Days, In the Dream House, Normal People, The Poppy War, Anna Karenina, I'm Mostly Here to Enjoy Myself, Women Who Think Too Much, which I will be reading that book next month, so I'll be able to cross that off. Girl by Kenya Hunt, Lean Out, Nausea by John Paul Sartre, M Train by Patti Smith, Mad Woman by Chelsea Beaker, Black Sheep by Rachel Harrison, and Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. I'm not sure if I will get to all of those books. I've read 8 of those books, and I feel like that already is a good try and attempt to getting to them, so I'm not going to pressure myself to choose these books. Obviously, I made this list in the beginning of the year when I knew less about my reading tastes and what I'd been and what appetite I'd have for books. After reading my first Sally Rooney book, I'm not as keen to pick those 2 up, and some of the books that I put on here just were not that great, so I think I'm not going to pressure myself to try and finish these, but there are books I would really like to get to before the end of the year, but the rest, if I can get to them, that would be great. I'm not going to pressure myself for them. The next prompt is a book to reread, and I chose The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I actually spoke about this book in detail in my recent video where I'm reading classics, so go check that out. I think it was in me doing that video that I felt like I need to reread this entire thing because there's just so much philosophy in this book. I want to delve into it again, and I want to absorb more information and take my time with this book because there's just a lot of amazing things being said in this book. Obviously, they're not all the right opinion and best thing because a lot of the philosophical opinions are coming from Lord Henry, so they're not going to be like super above board. They're kind of like philosophy that is like feeding into our like human individualistic, natures, which makes it a bit more salacious, but it still is just amazing and ultimately thought-provoking. And this is 100% a book that I want to experience again and just delve deeper into. The next prompt is, how many 5-star books have I read this year? I've already spoken about 3 books that I've rated 5 stars, and that includes East of Eden, My Brilliant Friend, and The Secret History. The last book that I also rated 5 stars was 1984 by George Orwell. And honestly, considering the fact that I have read 40 books this year, that means I have rated 10% of the books that I have read 5 stars, which it's pretty narrow, and honestly I feel like it's a good ratio because I don't take 5 stars lightly. I prefer to be more reserved in giving out 5 stars because that to me is the differentiation between just a book that I enjoy and a book that has moved me beyond. I'm happy with that percentage amount. I'm not upset with it. The next prompt is 5-star predictions that I have. I don't usually think about what I would give a book before I even start reading it, but these are a few books that I think I might have a pretty good time reading. First one is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I read Rebecca and I just loved the gothic vibes. I love the haunting, I love the tenseness, I love the just gothic energy of that novel, and when I heard that Wuthering Heights was a gothic novel as well, I was just like, I need to get my hands on that book because it sounds up my alley. The next one is Parable of the Sower. I have been on my dystopian kick this year. I mentioned 1984 and I just love delving into a society that is just like on the brink of what humanity allows and seeing how far humans will take it and can take it even if it's in a fictional scope. I just love that, and I've heard so many great things about Parable of the Sower, so that's definitely something I think I might enjoy. The next 5-star prediction is Blood Over Brighthaven. I love a good fantasy novel. I read The Will of the Many and it was an amazing book, and hearing that Blood Over Brighthaven is fantasy but like with female rage makes me feel like it is extremely up my alley. It is so up my alley, I can't even believe it. I cannot wait to read this book and I genuinely hope that it's 5 stars. And the last book that I'm going to predict 5 stars is Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. I've heard that it's about a female detective. I really don't know much more about it except that everyone that I've heard talk about it is completely obsessed. So I feel like I'll like it, so I want to give it a try. If I was to compare it to anything that I've read, maybe I would say All's Well. I don't know, it's giving like female rage or female going crazy vibes. Maybe All's Well existing as a reason why I might like it. And that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you liked it. If you did like it, please like and subscribe and comment down below some of your favorite books that you've read this year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.